I always believed the worst days of my life were behind me. I was wrong. It turns out the day everything fell apart did not start with sirens or shouting or anything dramatic. It started with a regular dentist appointment. That Tuesday morning in October seemed ordinary. My wife and I drove downtown so she could have her teeth checked. By lunchtime, I was sitting in a private office, answering questions that made my stomach turn, questions about the woman I had been married to for 7 years. My name is Thomas Bradley. I am 63 years old. I retired not long ago after spending decades working as a civil engineer. I built roads, bridges, subdivisions, the kind of projects that take years and careful planning. I always believed I understood structures. I believed I understood foundations. What I did not understand was the foundation of my own marriage. Until that morning, I thought I knew everything about my wife, Catherine. I met Catherine 8 years earlier at a charity fundraiser here in Vancouver. At that point, I had been alone for 3 years. My first wife, Patricia, had died after a long fight with pancreatic cancer. Patricia and I had been married for 32 years. 32 years of shared routines, inside jokes, Sunday mornings, and quiet evenings. When she passed, the house felt hollow. Even the air seemed different. Friends kept telling me I should not spend the rest of my life alone. They meant well, but I resisted. How do you move on after 3 decades with one person? How do you sit across from someone new at the dinner table and not compare every word, every expression? Then I met Catherine. She was 51 at the time. She carried herself with a kind of quiet confidence. Her auburn hair had strands of silver that caught the light, and she did not try to hide them. She told me she worked as a financial consultant and had recently moved from Toronto after a divorce. We stood near the refreshment table that night and ended up talking for 2 hours straight. We talked about city development, hiking trails in British Columbia, and even about the challenges of rebuilding a life after loss. She listened in a way that made you feel important. When I made a clumsy joke about load-bearing walls and she laughed like it was the funniest thing she had heard all week, something stirred in me. It was not love right away. It was hope. Our relationship moved quickly. Some people might call it a whirlwind. At our age, it felt practical. We both knew time was not unlimited. We got engaged after 6 months. A year after we first met, we were married. My daughter, Amanda, was 34 back then. She flew in from Calgary to meet Catherine before the wedding. One afternoon, while Catherine was out picking up a few things from the store, Amanda and I sat at the kitchen table with coffee between us. "Dad," she said carefully, "are you sure this is not happening too fast?" I remember smiling at her. "Honey, I am 60 years old. Waiting around is not something I have the luxury to do. Your mother would not want me to spend the rest of my life alone." Amanda did not argue, but she watched Catherine closely that weekend. She asked about her work, her previous marriage, her family background. The questions were polite, but they were sharp. Protective. Catherine handled it well. She answered calmly and respectfully. By the time Amanda left, she told me, "She seems nice, Dad. Just promise me you will be careful. 3 years is not that long after 32 years with Mom." I brushed off her worry. I told myself it was normal. Looking back, I wish I had paid more attention to the tone in her voice. The first year of marriage felt good. Catherine moved into the house Patricia and I had bought 3 decades earlier in West Vancouver. I worried it might feel strange for her, living in a space filled with another woman's memories. But she told me she respected my history. She suggested we redecorate together, blending old memories with new beginnings. We kept some of Patricia's favorite pieces and added new furniture that felt more like ours. It felt balanced. It felt healthy. Catherine's work required odd hours. She often had evening meetings and weekend seminars. I did not question it. I had spent most of my own life working long hours. When she came home late, we would sit on the deck overlooking the water with a small drink before bed, and she would tell me about her day. About a year and a half into our marriage, I started waking up in the middle of the night. At first, it was just once in a while. 3 in the morning, wide awake for no clear reason. Then I began having stomach problems, cramping after meals, nausea that seemed to come out of nowhere. I blamed age or stress. A few of my investments were not performing well, and I figured maybe that was weighing on me. "You should see your doctor," Catherine would say, bringing me peppermint tea with a concerned look on her face. I did go see my doctor. Dr. Samuel Harris had been my physician for 20 years. He ordered blood tests, checked my blood pressure, asked about my diet and stress. Everything came back normal. Sometimes the body just changes as we get older, he told me. Try to lower your stress levels. Walk more. Maybe drink less coffee. I followed his advice. For a while, the symptoms eased. Then they would return. Catherine started making me morning smoothies. She said they were packed with vitamins and special supplements from a wellness company she trusted. I had a client with similar symptoms, she told me. This helped him. The drinks were thick and bitter, even with fruit blended in. They had a chalky texture that lingered on my tongue. But I drank them every morning without complaint. I believed she was helping me. The sleep problems got worse. Some nights I would wake up with my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Sweat soaked through my shirt. Other nights, I had intense dreams that slipped away the second I opened my eyes. During the day, I found myself forgetting small things. Why I walked into a room. What I had been about to say. One evening, Catherine spoke softly. Do you think it could be early dementia? Your mother had Alzheimer's disease, right? She was right. My mother had been diagnosed at 72. The idea that I might be following the same path terrified me. I was only 62. Amanda called every Sunday. During one call, about 2 years into my marriage, I mentioned the memory lapses. That does not sound like you, she said immediately. Are you sure Dr. Harris ran every test? He did a full evaluation, I told her. Maybe this is just part of getting older. You are 62, not 92, she said. Maybe you should get another opinion. I never did. Catherine had become deeply involved in my health. She started coming with me to appointments. She kept detailed notes about my symptoms. She asked thoughtful questions. It felt wrong to doubt her. It felt ungrateful to question someone who seemed so devoted. Then came the dentist appointment. Catherine had been complaining about sensitive teeth for a few weeks. I scheduled her an appointment with Dr. Melissa Grant, whose clinic was in a modern building downtown. Catherine asked me to come with her. I get nervous at the dentist, she admitted. Would you mind staying? Of course I agreed. The appointment started like any other. Dr. Grant, a woman in her early 40s with dark hair pulled neatly back, examined Catherine's teeth and asked where the sensitivity was worst. Then she ordered a full set of x-rays. I sat in the waiting area scrolling through news on my phone. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. A dental assistant stepped into the waiting room and called my name. There was something serious in her expression that made my chest tighten. Dr. Grant met me in the hallway outside the x-ray room. Catherine was not with her. Mr. Bradley, she said quietly, I need to ask you a few questions about your wife's medical history. I felt my pulse quicken. Is something wrong with her teeth? Has your wife experienced any significant injuries in the past few years? Any falls, car accidents, anything that might have caused trauma to the bones in her face? The question caught me off guard. Not that I know of. Why? She gestured toward her office. Could we speak privately? As we walked, my mind ran through possibilities. Cancer, bone disease, something I had missed. She closed the office door and pulled up the x-ray images on her computer screen. These are your wife's dental x-rays, she said. When we take images of the jaw, we also capture part of the surrounding skull. She pointed to several areas on the screen. To someone without medical training, these may just look like shadows. But they are not. My stomach tightened. These are healed fractures, she said plainly. This one in the jaw appears fairly recent, maybe 6 to 8 months old. These here, in the cheekbone and near the eye socket, are older. And this one at the base of the skull is older still. They are in different stages of healing. She looked directly at me. That means they did not happen at the same time. They happened during separate incidents. And in that moment, sitting in that quiet office, I felt the first crack in the life I thought I understood. My mouth went completely dry. Fractures. Catherine had never once told me she had broken any bones. Not once. If she had, I would have remembered. She would have told me. We told each other everything. Or at least I thought we did. Dr. Grant kept her expression steady, but I could see something serious behind her eyes. Mr. Bradley, she said carefully, the pattern I am seeing is concerning. Multiple fractures to the face and skull, all in different stages of healing, can sometimes indicate ongoing physical abuse. By law, I am required to report suspected abuse. Abuse? The word came out louder than I meant it to. No, that is not possible. You do not understand. Our marriage is fine. Catherine has never said anything about broken bones. Could these injuries be from before we met? She hesitated slightly. The jaw fracture appears recent. Within the past year. Then she looked directly at me. Mr. Bradley, I need to ask you something plainly. Have you ever struck your wife? The question felt like someone had punched me in the chest. No, I said immediately. Never. I would never lay a hand on her. My hands were trembling. There has to be some kind of mistake. I do not believe there is a mistake in what I am seeing, she said gently. Given the pattern and the timeline, I am obligated to document this. But I wanted to speak with you first. Sometimes there are explanations. Can I see my wife? She is with the clinic manager at the moment. Before you do, I need to ask a few more questions. Has your wife had any other injuries that you know about? Any emergency room visits? I tried to clear my head. She sprained her wrist about a year ago, I said. She told me she slipped on ice. And about 8 months ago, she fell down a set of stairs at a client's office and bruised her ribs. But those were accidents. Dr. Grant was quiet. How many accidents has she had since you have been together? I started counting in my head. The wrist. The fall down the stairs. There was the time she slipped getting out of the shower and hit her shoulder against the tub. Another time she tripped while we were hiking and landed hard on her side. Once she stood up too fast in the kitchen and hit her head on a cabinet door she had left open. As I listed them, I saw her expression grow more serious. Mr. Bradley, she said, that is 6 significant injuries in less than 3 years. Were any of these reported to insurance? I do not know. Catherine handles most of our paperwork. She is better with that kind of thing. The office suddenly felt small. What are you saying? I asked. I am not making accusations, she replied. But I am required to document what I have found. With your permission, I would like to request copies of your wife's medical records from her primary care physician. If there is a pattern of injuries that were not properly investigated. That was when something struck me. Wait. She changed doctors about a year ago. She said her old physician in Toronto retired. She found someone new out here. I cannot even remember the name. Somewhere in Burnaby. Dr. Grant nodded slowly. Those records would be helpful. I understand this is overwhelming. If your wife is dealing with a medical condition that causes frequent falls or bone weakness, we need to identify that. And if, she paused, if there is something else going on, that needs to be addressed too. Something else like what? She chose her words carefully. Sometimes patterns like this point to insurance fraud. Sometimes they indicate domestic violence. And sometimes there is a legitimate medical explanation. I cannot assume. But this pattern deserves investigation. I felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. The woman who made me smoothies every morning. The woman who held my hand when I thought I might be developing dementia. The woman who sat beside me on the deck at night. What was I supposed to think? I want to see my wife, I said. When I entered the consultation room, Catherine was sitting beside the clinic manager, a stern-looking woman named Susan. Catherine looked pale but composed. Thomas, she said, what is going on? Why was I waiting so long? Susan stood up. Mrs. Bradley, Dr. Grant has identified some concerns from your x-rays. We need to ask about your injury history. The next hour felt unreal. Catherine confirmed each accident I had mentioned. Yes, she slipped on ice. Yes, she fell downstairs. Yes, she had a few other mishaps. When Susan asked for more detail, Catherine's tone sharpened. I am a little clumsy, she said. Is that a crime? I do not see what this has to do with my tooth sensitivity. Dr. Grant spoke calmly. Mrs. Bradley, some of the fractures visible on your x-rays would normally require emergency medical care. Can you tell us which hospital treated you for a fractured eye socket and a skull fracture? Catherine's jaw tightened. I do not recall having either of those. A fractured orbital socket and a skull fracture are not minor injuries, Dr. Grant said quietly. The conversation went in circles. Catherine accused the dentist of misreading the images. She accused me of discussing her medical information without her consent. She demanded we leave. I watched her the entire time, trying to reconcile the calm woman I loved with the images I had just seen on that screen. We left in silence. In the car, Catherine was furious. I cannot believe you let that woman question me like that, she said. Those x-rays could show anything. Maybe I have some bone condition no one has diagnosed yet. But what exactly was she implying? I asked quietly. You heard her, Catherine snapped. Either I am committing insurance fraud or you are beating me. Both ideas are ridiculous. She said there could be a medical explanation. Then I will see a specialist. But I am never going back to that dentist. She is incompetent. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But something was bothering me. That night, while Catherine was in the shower, I did something I had never done before. I went into her home office. That room had always been hers. I respected that, but I needed answers. Her file cabinet was unlocked. I began flipping through folders. Insurance forms, receipts, medical statements. Then I found hospital discharge papers I had never seen before. 3 separate emergency room visits in the past 2 years. 1 in Vancouver, 2 in Burnaby. Each visit listed injuries she had never told me about. A dislocated shoulder, fractured ribs, a concussion. I checked the dates. On each of those days, she had told me she was at evening meetings or weekend seminars. Under those papers were insurance documents. Not from our shared policy. From a separate personal accident insurance policy I did not even know existed. The claims totaled more than $200,000 over 2 years. Each claim was tied to a different injury. Each claim had been paid. I sat there staring at the paperwork spread across her desk. Why would she hide hospital visits from me? Why would she have a separate insurance policy? And then another thought crept in. Were these injuries even real? Or was she staging them? I heard the shower upstairs turn off. My hands were shaking as I took photographs of every document with my phone. Then I put everything back exactly as I found it. When Catherine came downstairs wearing her bathrobe, I was sitting on the couch pretending to read. "Are you still upset about today?" she asked, her voice softer now. "I am just thinking," I said. She sat beside me and took my hand. "Thomas, I know today felt strange. But I promise you there is nothing dark happening. I am just accident-prone. I did not tell you about some of the injuries because I did not want you worrying, especially with everything you have been dealing with." "You did not want me to worry? You have had enough on your plate," she said. "The sleep problems, the stomach issues. I did not want to add to it." Her eyes looked sincere, the same eyes that had made me feel seen the night we met. "I love you," she said softly. "You know that, right?" I wanted to believe her. But the images of those hospital reports would not leave my mind. That night, after she fell asleep, I sat alone in the dark living room. And I called my daughter, "Amanda." "Dad," she answered groggily. "It is almost midnight. Is everything all right?" I took a deep breath. And I told her everything. I told Amanda everything. About the dental appointment. About the x-rays. About the hospital records I found in Catherine's office. She did not speak for several seconds. "Dad," she finally said, "this does not sound right. None of it sounds right." "I know. Those smoothies she makes you. When did your symptoms start?" I thought about it carefully. "About a year and a half ago," I said slowly. "Around the time she sprained her wrist. Around the time the accident started. Around the time those insurance claims began." There was a long pause. "Dad," Amanda said carefully, "I am not jumping to conclusions. But I think you need to see a different doctor. Not Dr. Harris. Someone Catherine does not know about. And I think you need to stop drinking those smoothies." "You think she is poisoning me?" I asked. Even saying it out loud felt ridiculous. "I think you have been getting sicker while she has been having mysterious accidents that somehow bring in insurance payouts." "Dad, please. Just humor me. See another doctor. Get blood work done. And do not tell her." The fear in her voice matched the fear I had been pushing down all night. "All right," I said. "I will." The next morning, when Catherine was not looking, I poured the smoothie she made for me down the kitchen sink. I told her I felt too nauseated to drink it. She frowned, pressed her hand to my forehead, and told me to rest. For the next 3 days, I dumped every smoothie she prepared. And something strange happened. The fog in my head began to lift. The constant confusion that had followed me for months started to fade. My stomach stopped cramping. The nausea eased. I still felt weak, but clearer, sharper. On the 4th day, while Catherine said she was meeting a client, I drove to a walk-in clinic in North Vancouver, far from our usual area. I told the doctor everything. My symptoms, the timeline, the smoothies, the improvement after stopping them. I expected her to dismiss me. Instead, Dr. Laura Bennett listened carefully. "Mr. Bradley," she said, "I want to run a comprehensive toxicology screen. If someone has been introducing a substance into your system slowly, we may still detect it in your blood, urine, or even your hair." She paused. "If the results show what I am concerned about, we will need to contact law enforcement. Are you prepared for that?" Was I prepared to find out my wife had been poisoning me? No, but I was prepared to know the truth. On the drive home, I called Amanda. "I did it," I said. "The test should come back in a few days." "Where are you staying until then?" she asked. "I'm staying at home." "Dad, if she is actually..." "I will be careful. I will not eat or drink anything she gives me. That is not enough. What if she realizes you stopped? What if she escalates? Her fear spread through me like cold water. I will figure something out, I said. But I did not have a plan. When I got home, Catherine was in the kitchen cooking dinner. She smiled when she saw me. You look better, she said. How are you feeling? A little better, I admitted. That is wonderful. I am making your favorite. Salmon with maple glaze. The table was already set. There was wine poured into glasses. It looked like the life we had built together. Warm, peaceful. I could not eat it. I pushed the food around my plate and told her my stomach was still unsettled. For just a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. It could have been frustration. It could have been something else. Then it disappeared, replaced by concern. Why do you not go lie down? She said gently. I will clean up. That night, I lay in bed beside her, staring at the ceiling. How do you share a bed with someone and wonder if they are trying to kill you? My phone vibrated softly on the nightstand. A message from Amanda. I called the dentist. She filed a report with Adult Protective Services and shared the x-rays with a forensic consultant. Dad, they believe the injury pattern looks like self-inflicted trauma for insurance fraud. They want to speak with you. Self-inflicted. Catherine had been hurting herself on purpose. And if that was true, what did that mean about what she was doing to me? I quietly got out of bed and went downstairs. In my study, I opened my laptop and started researching. Arsenic, thallium, antifreeze. Each one could cause stomach pain, confusion, weakness, memory problems. My heart pounded. I heard footsteps upstairs. I quickly closed the laptop. Catherine appeared in the doorway, the hallway light behind her. What are you doing up? She asked. Could not sleep. She walked into the room slowly. You have been acting strange since that dentist appointment, she said. Are you upset with me? Should I be? I asked. Her eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of question is that? Why did you not tell me about the hospital visits? The emergency rooms? The injuries I knew nothing about? She froze for just a fraction of a second. Then her expression shifted. You went through my files? You did not answer my question. I told you, she said softly. I did not want to worry you. You have been so fragile. Fragile? I snapped. I have been sick. Have you? She shot back. You have been deteriorating for months. Memory problems. Confusion. Weakness. I have been holding this house together while you fall apart. And now you are accusing me over a few accidents? The way she said deteriorating made my skin crawl. What is in the smoothies? I asked. Her face went completely blank. Vitamins. Protein powder. Fruit. You have watched me make them. What is really in them? She turned toward the door. You are not well, she said coldly. I am calling Dr. Harris in the morning. Maybe you need a neurologist. This paranoia is not normal. Do not walk away from me. She spun around. Do not tell me what to do in my own house. Your house. I said quietly. This was Patricia's house. For a brief second, the mask slipped. I saw something cold in her eyes. Calculating. Then it vanished. Tears filled her eyes. How dare you, she whispered. After everything I have done for you. After dealing with your endless health complaints. Your daughter's suspicion. Living in another woman's shadow. I should have known you would never truly let me be your wife. She was convincing. If I had not seen the insurance claims. If I had not spoken to the dentist. If my head had not begun clearing after I stopped the smoothies. I might have apologized. Instead, I said, I am sleeping in the guest room until I sort this out. Her tears stopped instantly. Fine, she said flatly. Maybe that is best. I did not sleep. I heard her moving around the house during the night. I heard her talking quietly on the phone to someone. At one point, she was in the kitchen for a long time. When morning came, she left early, saying she had a breakfast meeting with a client. As soon as she drove away, I called Dr. Bennett. The results are back, she said immediately. Mr. Bradley, you have elevated levels of thallium in your system. Not high enough to be immediately fatal, but consistent with chronic low-dose exposure over time. My heart stopped. I have already contacted the police, she continued. They will want to speak with you right away. Thallium. I searched it while still on the phone. A toxic heavy metal. Once used in rat poison. Nearly tasteless. Causes stomach distress, neurological problems, hair loss, weakness. And according to what I was reading, if exposure continued long enough, it would kill you. The police arrived within an hour. 2 detectives. Detective Laura Reynolds, in her 40s, steady and sharp-eyed. And Detective Daniel Ortiz, younger, quiet, observant. I showed them everything. The insurance paperwork, the hospital discharge records I had photographed, and emails I found on our shared computer after Catherine left that morning. Emails to someone named Victor about the plan and keeping the old man confused. Who is Victor? Detective Reynolds asked. I have no idea, I said. I have never heard her mention that name. They collected my laptop. They photographed the documents. They took samples from the vitamin containers in the kitchen. Detective Ortiz carefully removed the blender Catherine used every morning and sealed it in an evidence bag. Mr. Bradley, Detective Reynolds said, is there somewhere else you can stay? If your wife has been poisoning you, you cannot remain here when she returns. My hands were shaking as I picked up my phone, and I called Amanda. Within 3 hours, Amanda had booked a flight from Calgary. Within 6 hours, I was checked into a hotel downtown with a uniformed police officer posted outside my door. Everything moved faster than I thought possible. The powder in the containers Catherine used for my smoothies was not vitamins. It tested positive for thallium sulfate. The emails on our shared computer showed months of communication with a man named Victor Kane, someone she had known back in Toronto. They discussed insurance fraud in cold, practical terms. They talked about timelines and keeping him foggy. Then the detectives uncovered something even worse. Catherine Bradley was not her real name. Her real name was Catherine Monroe. She had legally changed it 7 years earlier, just before moving to Vancouver. Before me, she had been married 3 times. All 3 husbands were dead. The first death had been ruled an accident, a fall down a staircase. The second had been labeled a drowning. The third husband, Victor Kane's father, had died of what doctors called acute renal failure. No autopsy was performed because he already had kidney disease. Detective Reynolds explained all of this to me 3 days after I left my house. Amanda sat beside me in the hotel room, gripping my hand so tightly it hurt. Victor is her former stepson? I asked. Yes, Detective Reynolds said. He was 19 when his father died. Catherine collected a $1 million life insurance payout. A few years later, she began filing personal injury insurance claims. The injuries were staged. Victor helped her create them, document them, and file claims. They split the money. How much? I asked. Close to $400,000 over 3 years. I felt sick. Why me? I asked quietly. You were financially stable, she said. Recently widowed. Retired. You owned your home outright. You were vulnerable. She paused before adding the next part. She also took out a $2 million life insurance policy on you. Forged your signature. She was listed as the sole beneficiary. I stared at her. How could she forge my signature without me knowing? She used legitimate documents you had signed. Your marriage certificate. Your will. She digitally altered the signature and submitted the paperwork online. Detective Reynolds looked at me steadily. Based on the amount of thallium in your system and the timeline Dr. Bennett established, if you had continued drinking those smoothies for another 2 or 3 months, you would have died. It would have looked natural. Organ failure. Possibly complications from cognitive decline. Given your age and documented health issues, no one would have questioned it. Amanda made a sound beside me that I will never forget. I could not speak. We arrested Catherine and Victor this morning. Detective Reynolds continued. She is being charged with attempted murder, fraud, identity fraud, and we are reopening the investigations into her previous husband's deaths. Victor is charged as an accessory. What happens now? I asked. Now you focus on recovering. Eventually, there will be a trial. The trial began 9 months later. By then, I had regained most of my physical strength. My stomach had settled. The weakness had mostly faded, but the cognitive damage lingered. I still struggled to find words sometimes. I still had moments where my mind felt slower than it used to be. The doctors told me some of that might be permanent. The emotional damage ran deeper. Amanda moved back to Vancouver for a while. She took leave from her job and stayed near me. You spent my whole life taking care of me, she said. Now it is my turn. I did not argue. I attended every day of the trial. Catherine looked different sitting at the defense table. The warmth she used to wear like a costume was gone. What remained was sharp and cold. Victor testified against her as part of a plea agreement. He described, in careful detail, how they researched poisons, how Catherine selected thallium because it mimicked natural illness, how she increased the dose slowly over time, how they planned to wait a respectful period after my death before claiming the life insurance payout. Listening to it felt like hearing the blueprint of my own execution. A forensic toxicologist explained to the jury how thallium works, how it causes gastrointestinal distress, confusion, weakness, hair loss, how it can look like aging or early dementia unless someone specifically tests for it. Dr. Grant testified about the X-rays, about the pattern of fractures consistent with self-inflicted trauma. Insurance investigators outlined the fraudulent claims. The defense tried to portray Catherine as unstable, as someone manipulated by Victor. The jury did not believe it. They saw what I had failed to see: a methodical predator who targeted vulnerable men and built a life around deception. When the verdict came back guilty on all counts, I did not feel victorious. I felt tired. The judge sentenced Catherine to 25 years in prison. Victor received 7 years. As officers led her out of the courtroom, she looked back at me once. There was no apology in her eyes, no regret, only calculation. Outside the courthouse, Amanda wrapped her arms around me. "It is over, Dad," she said. But it was not over. Not really. I had to relearn how to live, how to eat without suspicion, how to sleep without wondering what was in my bloodstream, how to trust another human being. I sold the house in West Vancouver. There were too many memories there. Some beautiful, some unbearable. Amanda and I found a smaller place in Kitsilano near the water. I started therapy. It was slow, painful, necessary. About a year after the trial, I joined a support group for older adults who had been victims of fraud and relationship abuse. There were 7 of us. One woman in her 70s had lost her retirement savings to her own nephew. A retired teacher had been tricked by a fake investment advisor running a Ponzi scheme. We sat in a circle and told our stories. One evening, a woman named Linda asked, "How do you learn to trust again?" No one had a perfect answer. Trust is not something you flip back on like a light switch. It grows slowly, carefully, through consistency and proof. I am still working on it. What I do share are the warning signs I ignored. The isolation. How Catherine slowly discouraged me from spending time with old friends. The control. How she took over the paperwork, the finances, the accounts. The manipulation. How she made me question my own memory when I started getting sick. The overwhelming affection in the beginning and whenever I showed doubt. I learned that people like her look for transition points. Widowers, divorced men, recently retired people. They look for loneliness and financial stability. They are patient. They build trust deliberately, and they can appear loving beyond belief. I also learned something else. When someone who loves you raises a concern, listen. If I had listened more closely to Amanda in the beginning, I might have spared myself months of suffering. Now, at 64, I am rebuilding. Some days are good. Some days I still wake up remembering the taste of those smoothies and the slow fog that crept into my mind. But I am alive. That matters. Amanda eventually returned to Calgary. She is thriving in her career. We speak every day. She still worries. I let her. That is what love looks like sometimes. If there is one thing I want people to take from my story, it is this. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, look into it. Do not ignore the quiet voice inside you. Do not dismiss the concerns of people who care about you. And if you feel yourself being weakened, confused, isolated, reach out. There is no shame in asking for help. There is only survival. I used to believe evil was dramatic, loud, obvious. Now I know it can look like kindness, like devotion, like a morning smoothie made with a smile. But I also know this. Human beings are capable of resilience that is just as powerful. Tonight, I sat on the beach near English Bay and watched the sun sink into the water. The sky turned orange and pink, stretching across the horizon like a promise. I sat there breathing in the salt air, grateful. Every ordinary moment feels extraordinary now. Every breath feels earned. I am still here, and that is enough.